All right. Well, I am delighted to welcome Isaac Showaki, founder of Octopi Brewing, to Badger Beer Hour for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah. So obviously, you made some pretty big news in the beer world this month. Tell me, you've said in some other interviews that the conversations about the sales that a little over like a year ago. How did this deal come about?
Uh, I think like with everything in life, we just found each other. Like Asahi, put it out there a few years ago that they wanted a presence in the U.S. And the more I learned about it, the more we were kind of like a perfect match. We're the right size, right place, right location, right capabilities. And I think we reached out over email, and the conversation started going, and then it became it moved pretty fast. And then once we got to a point, then it took about a year from the beginning to close. But I think it was a good match for everybody.
So what does this mean as far as Octopi's operations? Like, one of the big questions that I've wondered about in reading what's been out there about this already is whether like, is that facility going to become Asahi International or Asahi Wisconsin, or is it? I mean, will Octopi's branding remain? Can you just kind of walk us through what this is meaning for what had been, your company?
Yeah, for sure. Though this is super exciting for us. So we're going to be the de facto like North American facility for Asahi. Like in the U.S. and Canada. The Octopi name renames, stays. The co-packing stays. So like I said, what I liked about this partnership is that there was as little changes as possible. Yes, they bought us because they want us to make a lot of Asahi product here, but the business and the name and the culture will pretty much remain. So Octopi remains and co-packing remains, and hopefully pretty soon we'll be able to start making Asahi products for North America.
Nice. So, I mean, I think the main way that that most of our audience knows about Octopi is as a client for a lot of the breweries in Wisconsin that we care about and around the Midwest, and of course too. Um, is are I mean, I know that Asahi is essentially buying volume here. Is all the contract work that you've worked so hard to build for the last 10 years, is that all going to continue going forward? Is Asahi basically getting into the contract brewing business with this acquisition?
Yeah, well, they bought. We have already contracts that were signed that are going to last a few years. So, like, of course, like those contracts are going to stay. And if we have extra capacity or we want to increase, like, yeah, the co-packing, like I said, stays and hopefully will grow. I love co-packing. I see that they see a benefit for co-packing. Of course, like they didn't buy us for the co-packing business; they bought us to make Asahi products. But
Okay.
everything should stay pretty similar for several years.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about co-packing? Because I think having the beer folk do, I'm kind of most interested in in like the contract brewing and all the beer that you're making, with Untitled Art, or for a lot of the brands that, I think that has been really interesting to see Wanakee, Wisconsin show up on so many of those beer labels from, distributed around the country. But can you talk a little bit about co-packing, what that is, what the advantages of it are, and how, that has grown in terms of Octopi's business?
Yeah, for sure. So we started in 2014 as a strictly dedicated contract brewery. So at the beginning, the goal was to do just beer. I'll be honest, as soon as I opened after the first year, I saw the beer industry, specifically craft beer, not growing and not going anywhere. So I decided to make a change and a big investment and become a beverage co-packer. And that completely opened up like our growth potential and the brands that we work with. For example, when we opened, we had 6 employees. We did 10,000 barrels the first year, and it was only beer. And then fast forward to now, we have 545,000 square feet of space. We're on pace this year to do about 800,000 barrels of production, but beer is only 20% of our volume and
Okay.
decreasing. However, that's going to change significantly because Asahi is all about beer. So beer is going to take the center stage again pretty soon. And then co-packing is basically, we like to make products for other people, whether you're a brand, an existing brand, or a new brand, or somebody that's in the market that wants to scale. That's where we're really, really good at. We can make your product probably, ideally the same quality, if not better, and ideally at a cheaper price or a more affordable price that you can make it, because we have scale. We're not huge, but we're not small. Like I said, our capacity right now is about 1 million barrels or about 14 million cases. So we're like a decent sized capacity brewery or facility. And as we've grown, we've evolved, right? Like at the beginning, we would brew for anybody, no matter the size. We had some minimums, but they're pretty small. But as our company has grown, our minimum has grown, our capacity has grown. So like we don't take any client. We have, if at least right now, if you're doing 250,000 cases a year, which is about 20,000 barrels, that's kind of like the minimum we'd like to work with. So yes, as we've grown, some brands have been able to evolve with us, but some brands having, like they're now too small for us, that there's other places that are better suited to brew for them. But co-packing is basically like you send us a recipe and we'll make it for you. We'll package it. We'll do everything. And then once it's done, then it's your responsibility to ship it and sell it.
Okay. And when you talk about your capacity right now being about 1 million barrels, is that because I know, like, taking the lead time, the production time for different beers, even within beer, can vary quite a bit. Typically, like in the space, we're thinking about ales, lagers, whatever. That capacity might be different for, say, a soda or an energy drink. Or what kind of metric is that 1 million barrels tied to?
Mainly that's our canning line capacity. That's what they can do, but it's with our current mix of clients of like 20% beer. We do about like 30% RTDs, which is, like canned cocktails mainly. And then we do about 20 to 30% of FMBs, NSBs, hard seltzers or flavor malt beverages. And then the rest is soda. So depending on the mix, we can package more or less about 1 million barrels of capacity.
Wow. I mean, that's a lot of, it's I imagine that the war room of Octopi Brewing or Octopi, has a lot going on with, kind of keeping track of all this stuff and how one client's needs might kind of, affect everything else down the line. I mean, can you kind of like walk me that all fits together?
Yeah, so I'll be honest. Like 4 years ago, we had everything on a board, and then we would just like write it with our with our hands, and then if something moved, we have to write the schedule all over. But we're very lucky. About 4 years ago or 3.5 years ago, we hired our new director of planning, who basically said, his job was to tame the schedule or fix the schedule, right? So he created an online schedule that you input all the information of like the current tanks, the current production timeline, capacity, packaging constraints, etc. And then it spits out a schedule, and he can modify the schedule in less than 5 minutes if anything changes. So we have an incredible person that leads the planning team, but now the planning team is about, I think there's 4 people looking at the schedule daily and how things change and modify, because, things take longer, materials don't show up on time, things might move faster. Like packaging might have a great couple of days that they're actually ahead of schedule. So the schedule gets automated and updated every 15 minutes. So it's a big job that the scheduling team does, but they're the ones that manage everything for us and then the whole company.
Okay. I want to jump back to the kind of the sale and the kind of the reasons behind it. You mentioned, well, first of all, I want to talk about your motivations in this. And I mean, there's a fair like motivation, and it is that you built this thing and now you get to reap the rewards of it now instead, or immediately, instead of necessarily the long-term thing. But can you just kind of walk us through your thought process in terms of the why on how you came to this decision, and not just necessarily with the buyer at all, but the business overall, and yeah.
Yeah, like I always said since the very beginning, if there's somebody that's interested in Octopi, I would always like listen to an offer, right? It was never like my intention, like not to say no to everybody. It was more like, oh, if somebody has something interesting, including like a client, like I would always like entertain it and see if it's worth for everybody, right? But for this one specifically was we were getting off size. We have Octopi has 250 full-time employees. We're in charge of there's about 400 plus people that rely on Octopi. And I'll be honest, that was the primary goal. What can I do, or what can the shareholders do that can put the people that work for Octopi, rely on Octopi, in a great, secure place for the future, right? And I thought that was the right move. And then, there was many things that aligned, right? Keep the current clients, so keep co-packing assist. That was very, very much what I wanted to do, because all the clients that we have currently set us to this path. So I wanted to make sure that they were taken care of and we were able to execute their contracts. Keep the employees, keep the name, keep everything as is, but also, of course, have a good benefit for the shareholders that invested in this facility since day one. So I think, like I said, everything had check, 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 and Asahi was the perfect partner for us. So we're very, very happy with they chose us, and we went through through this deal together. And I think the future is very bright for the people at Octopi, and of course for Asahi being headquartered now in Waunakee, Wisconsin, which is incredibly exciting.
I do have to ask, what can you talk about the value of this transaction, the valuation of the company as it went into the Asahi portfolio?
Yeah, that's confidential, and I'm not allowed to share.
Okay. And this finds you now as part of the Asahi team, right? You are managing director of the Octopi unit within Asahi. And what is the actual nomenclature there? It's Asahi Europe and International.
Yeah, you got it right. So it's pretty cool. So Asahi has, of course, 3 big divisions. So Japan owns everything, right? And then they have the domestic division, which is covering Japan market. Then they have the Oceania division, which is Australia and New Zealand. Asahi is the largest brewery in Australia and New Zealand. And then they have the European and International division, which covers almost, the rest of the world, right? And I'm part of in Europe, they have 19 production plants, and they're part of they cover, I think, 40 countries. And then we're going to be their 20th plant in that division. So we're part of Asahi Europe and International. It's about 10,000 employees, so it's a big, big division, and we're their North American headquarters.
Okay, and you are managing director of basically. So I mean,
that's my title. I'm basically here to stay to do the same job I did for the last 10 years, and of course, helping manage the co-packing, but also they have pretty big expansion plans. They're one of the amazing things is that they want to grow, and they're going to invest a lot of money into this facility in the next 12 to 16 months. So they're also leaving me here to help them, manage those expansion plans.
Okay, I was going to say, I know Octopi's been going quite gangbusters and growing. My colleague Barry Adams at the State Journal has written, it feels like story after story, a big new expansion at Octopi. And it's kind of bringing what had been a pretty small craft brewery in line with, the warehousing needs and all these other, just total volume growth and just the logistics that are required with that. But I was wondering, I assume that all these Asahi Super Dry and other beers in that portfolio will be made at Octopi now. So I was wondering about capacity. Is there going to be some expansion coming out of that? What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so that's, I'll be honest, one of the most exciting parts about this new project and new phase is that Asahi comes with a lot of projects and a lot of expansions. So we feed most of the stuff that they want to do, but there's a lot of stuff specifically on the brewing side that we need to get new equipment, new process, etc., to be able to produce their brands. And the one that's very, very what's the right word? They're very specific. Is Asahi Super Dry. A team from Japan has to come here. They have to make sure that everything's perfect. It's going to take a bunch of trials, before they can say, okay, go ahead, you can produce it. So that's the one that I'm most excited about. And of course, that's our biggest one. But in order to do that, we need about a lot of investment in our current facility to be able to get there. So Asahi has committed to invest about $40 million this year into our facility for growth and expansion. That's specifically catering their brands. But the most exciting part of the project is when we met Asahi, the first thing they said is they're all about sustainability. And at the beginning, I'm everybody says that, right? We met with other gigantic players and they all say they care about sustainability, but Asahi truly cares. The first person they sent was their sustainability manager. And part of this big $40 million, a bunch of it, almost a third, is dedicated to 2 big sustainability projects. We're going to do a wastewater facility that's going to treat 100% of our water. And we're going to do a big CO2 recovery plant that's going to help us recover most of our CO2, clean it, and reuse it. And if we do those two projects, which they already approved, we will have the most sustainable plant in the Midwest, because we have the one and only solar and battery power plant in Dane County. And then a lot of our water gets reused. We have a lot of like sustainable projects like our boilers, etc., that we've done over the past. But if we have those two big projects, I can clearly say that we'll have the most sustainable plant in the Midwest. And that for me was incredibly appealing, why Asahi was the best partner we could find.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, I'm thinking about, like, 10 years ago when, pretty big brewery opened in Wanakee, and we were like, wow, this is really cool, something different. And just thinking about the growth that's happened since then. I mean, what was your employee count at that time?
We had 6 people when we started, including myself. So that
Okay.
was a big brewery, was 6 people, 16,000 square feet. And then my business plan that I wrote with my wife, our dream was to get to 50,000 barrels, because that would make us like a top 50 production facility in the US at the time. So my dream is already 20 times bigger than I ever imagined. Like 1 million barrels, 20 times bigger than I ever dreamed of. So yeah, it's been quite a ride, and it's been incredible growth. And like I said, this has gone beyond my wildest dreams.
I mean, there's kind of a, on this show we talk, we're mostly small potatoes. We're talking about, new brewery that opened, or an expansion, or sometimes closures. It's, sad, it's part of the business these days. But a lot of it is very focused on the communities and the culture, the connection that local people have to their local brewery. And I do feel like Octopi does have that. I mean, it's this interesting dichotomy of being a huge, now international brewer, and I'm sure I mean, definitely was on the national scale already, and doing all these other different things, that it's outside of kind of the standard brewery purview. But can you talk a little bit about the connection with Wanakee and the local community, and how that's been embraced, and the reaction that you've gotten from those taproom regulars, or from maybe village officials since this big news?
Yeah, so Village of Waikiki has been the best place I could ever, they chose us, and we chose them. Like, I didn't know where Wanakee was in the map 15 years ago, and this is the best thing that ever happened to me. So from day one, like, the Village of Wanakee was like, we want you here. How can we make it happen? We can get you the permits quickly. We'll help you with everything we can. So that was their stance 9 years ago, when we were like, a small place, all the way to now. Like, every time we needed something, or we asked for something, or we want to partner with something, they've said yes. So Wanakee has been an incredible partner since day one. I think they've been incredibly supportive of everything we've done. I think they're excited about the future growth of Octopi, and of course Asahi being here. Like I said, like, Asahi is the 5th largest brewery in the world, and they chose Wanakee, Wisconsin, to be their headquarters for North America. I think that's a big deal for Wisconsin and for Wanakee, and I think they're embracing that. And I think they're excited. And then for the community, I think the best examples are taproom, right? Like, our taproom is a huge community driver. We're in the middle of nowhere. We're in an industrial park, so everybody has to drive here to get here. Our taproom is every year keeps growing. We get more people through the taproom, like a lot. I don't know the exact number, but we're the most visited, one of the most visited spots in Dane County, and then we're the most visited, of course, in Wanakee right now. So a lot of people come from other places, not just Wanakee, Madison, greater area, and other places. And we keep investing in our taproom, growing our taproom. And Asahi saw the same thing. Like, he's like, keep your taproom open, keep it as is. There's a huge community space, and we want you to make sure that you grow it, and you keep going at it. So that was also a good match. But I would say, like, we do a lot of stuff through our taproom with our community. And then the last one is our involvement with Clean Wisconsin. We've been a part of Clean Wisconsin for 5 years. I'm on the board of Clean Wisconsin. Clean Wisconsin is the oldest nonprofit, environmental nonprofit in the state. It's all about making sure that people in Wisconsin have clean water, air, and energy, and that's their motto, their goal. And we would love that we're a little part of it, and want to continue their growth and their vision in the community, and of course the state.
That's great. Jumping back to the motivation for the sale, we talked about your motivation as a seller. What did you kind of mentioned location and a lot of different factors in Asahi's kind of evaluation of this. I know you're kind of on the other side of that transaction, but now that you're within the company, like what are they seeing as the assets of brewing? Maybe not. I mean, certainly with Octopi itself and the company and the brewery and the facility that you've built, but also kind of Wisconsin as as the place that they want it to be. Can you talk a little bit about kind of those various factors?
Yeah, like so we had the right size facility. They were looking about something that was close to 1 million barrels, so it kind of matched. Our facility, like I don't know if you haven't been here in a while, but please come and look at it. Like I think we have like the best mid-sized facility in the U.S. period, with all our equipment and our facility and our buildings. So I think they were very attracted to that too. Also location, right? Wisconsin, we're in the middle of the country, and they have a lot of business in the West Coast, in the middle of the country. But also, they own Peroni. They don't own Peroni for the U.S., but they own Peroni worldwide. And one of their biggest markets in North America is Canada. So we're gonna be making a lot of Peroni here to export to Canada. So also geographically, it matched. So like I said, there was a lot of things that checked for them that make good sense to buy us.
Nice. Okay, one thing that I've been wondering about with this is you have some other interests in the Octopi is not your only business, and you are a partner in Untitled Art and in Pequod Distributing. Does this change any of that? How does, or I guess I'm wondering kind of how. Well, let me start with that first question. Does this change anything for Untitled Art or for Pequod?
So I'm an owner of Untitled Art, but Pico just distributes Untitled Art in our brand. So
okay,
yep. So
okay, common misconception that I just amplified. Sorry about that.
No worries. Like Pico started I think like 5 or 6 years ago, and they started distributing our brands, and they're a distributor in Wisconsin and Minnesota. So they're gonna still distribute our brands, and then for Untitled Art is stays the same. We have as Octopi, we have a contract that Untitled Art we signed, and we're gonna be here for a while. And Octopi will produce I would say most of the stuff that Untitled Art wants and needs for their distribution nationwide.
Okay, and then I guess did the Untitled Art like kind of play into the for your decision to sell? I mean, was that any factor at all? And if it was, kind of how did that? Not really.
Yes, like I want to make sure, like if somebody was going to buy Octopi, the acquisition didn't include Untitled Art, but I wanted to make sure that if whoever wanted to buy Octopi, Untitled Art had to continue living here and had to be able to co-pack here. So that was the case with Asahi. They were more than happy to make sure that they kept the contracts that we had, including Untitled Art. And yeah, I wouldn't have sold to somebody that wanted to kill Untitled Art, because Untitled Art is a great brand and a great business, and I want to continue to grow it significantly in the next few years.
Okay, another question I guess I had just in hearing you talk about the commitment to the future, and you kind of mentioned a couple times, well, there are existing contracts, and everybody's going to live up to that. Does Octopi? I mean, Asahi is a big company that has all of its own brands.
Yeah.
Does it have other facilities around the world that you're aware of that do co-packing and the kind of contract brewing that Octopi does?
Yeah. So I don't know if they own any co-packers, but I know they do co-pack a few brands. For example, like I don't know which one, but like I know one of their main brands right now is being produced somewhere in Canada for the Canadian market. So they understand co-packing, and of course, as a company, they do co-packing across the world.
I mean, is there like a horizon, like a potential endpoint that where I mean, because the as you've kind of described, Octopi is a very complicated business with a lot of different clients, and it's a lot easier to just bang out like thousands and thousands of barrels of super dry and Peroni and that sort of thing. I mean, do you feel like Asahi has a long-term commitment to co-packing and I mean, you mentioned, a few years or several years. Do you feel like in 10, 15 years that the business of Octopi will be kind of the same, or
Yeah,
is that kind of too far out?
too far out. I have no idea. Like even when before when I owned Octopi, I didn't know what the next year was going to look like because every year looked
That's
completely
true.
different. So there's
Right.
like we went from like 10,000 to 800,000 barrels in 8 years. So every year the business looked completely different, and every year we got better. So like the people that work here like know that change is normal. And with Asahi, we told them like, hey, nothing changes. Like we've been used to change every single year, and there's more change coming. But every year we want to get better at everything we do. So that's the exciting part. Um, what I loved about Asahi was they really are long-term visionaries, right? Like a lot of other potential buyers would have been like, okay, we have a 5 year, if it was private equity, they would have been like, we have a 5 year deal, and after 5 years we need to sell you. So we have like, here's what you need to do in like now. Where Asahi's like, no,
Hmm.
like we're here to stay. You guys are the North American headquarters. We're gonna grow, but we want to grow, want to grow like smart, right? We don't want to make crazy changes that are gonna change everything. What we do is very like concise, and there's a lot of thought behind it, and they want to be here. Like I said, we are going to be their headquarters for North America, for the U.S. and Canada for the forever, right? Like I don't think there's any plans to do anything else. Hopefully they'll grow us, but that's who knows, right?
Right. Awesome. That's a lot. One thing I like about interviewing Isaac is like you pack a lot of information into your interviews. You are a fast talker, and it's very information dense. So I appreciate
I
that.
can repeat it
Um,
if I was too fast.
um, you mentioned some exciting things for Untitled. Talk about a little bit about that, because sorry, the cat jumped on my lap. Do you want to talk a little bit about what's going on with Untitled Art and where you see it going in the next maybe 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, for sure. So like I think this year is going to be like a pivotal year for us. So we grew last year about 20%, but this is the year that we really want to grow significantly. So we finished the year with about 30,000 barrels of production. So it's a nice size facility, nice size brewery. And our goal this year is to get to like 40,000 barrels or close there. We're in 27 states. We want to grow our footprint. We're really strong in a few places like the Southeast, like you said, Florida, Georgia, etc. We're pretty strong in, of course, the Midwest. And we want to grow our presence in other places that are not as big as we are, like, for example, the Northeast. Sorry. And then for brands, then this is pretty exciting. We started, again, like this whole the process of changing and keeping up with the change. Untitled was born as a beer LTO brand. LTO is limited time offering. Every single thing we did was one and done. We did one beer and it was never repeated. But now, fast forward to today, 85% of our volume is on 3 categories: our NA beer, our hard seltzer, Florida seltzer, and our hemp and CBD, which is green canvas, which is Goodwill and Motif. So, and then beer is 12% and decreasing. So also, Untitled has been able to evolve with the market and are doing incredible things in a few categories that are significantly growing. So I'm very excited about, of course, our NA beer. I believe we have the best NA beer in the market, period. I don't think anybody can compare with our taste. Sorry about that. I just got over a cold. It's been, as you know, it's been brutal here.
Season for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So our NA beer is number one. That's the most exciting thing that we're doing. We're increasing our NA beer production and also the flavor offerings that we're sending this year. Of course, our Florida seltzer is like second, but it's incredibly strong. We've seen, where the seltzer market basically collapsed except White Claw. Our Florida seltzer grew 35% from last year. I think we have also, again, the best tasting like hard seltzer in the market because we use real juice. Our flavors are phenomenal. And I think our packaging is really, really great. And then I am personally very excited about what hemp and CBD is going to be in the next few years. Of course, big companies don't want to touch it because it's not federally legalized, but we're assuming that federally legalized stuff, hopefully in the next 3 to 5 years, we'll be doing. And I think that's going to be a big part of the market going forward.
Awesome. That's great stuff. Very exciting. I mean, yeah, that's a good point. Like on weathering the storm of the hard seltzer crash is very impressive. I mean, I think it points to the fact that it's just a different product, really. I mean, same category, but it's really not the same as a White Claw or whatever. So yeah.
Yeah, but like usually when we talk to new distributors, they hear the word hard seltzer and they don't want anything to do with it. And we're like, please,
right.
we'll send you a 12-pack. taste
Yeah,
it, and then
you
we'll
got to.
talk. And of course, they taste it like, oh my god, this place is amazing. I'm like, I know we told you about it, and they're like, and you're like much higher than everybody else in pricing, so we make more money. I'm like, yes, so it's like a win-win for everybody. So it really is like we need to have the product in people's mouths, like to taste it before they're like, wow, this thing is really really good.
Sweet. I think that's it. Is there anything else that I'm missing about this, about the big sale, about what's next for
Sorry, Chris, I lost you.
Asahi? Or, I mean, I think always got to end an interview with that open-ended question, right?
Yeah, no, like I think like the future is very exciting. Like I said, Asahi really wants to grow here, and they're putting a lot of money behind it. Like I said, they're doing incredible expansion plans, which that's very exciting for me because we've done a lot of expansion plans, so we love that. So it's all about growth. We're going to be hiring a lot of new people. I think we still have like 30 open positions, and we're going to add more. So if anybody's interested in working at Octopi, please check out our website. There's a link that says careers, and you'll see like every position that's open at Octopi. We're looking for great people that can help us grow. And then for Untitled Art, it's exciting. Like we're in a time that we want to grow. Like I want to double the brand in the next 2-3 years. My goal is to get it to 60,000 barrels plus. Close to 1 million CEs like cases, and that's where we're gearing towards. Like we're going to push really really hard to make it happen.
I think we lost you on the end of that thought, but Isaac, I thank you so much for joining us here on Badger Beer Hour. A great interview as always. I need to remember to just. We should probably have you on once a year or so, just to have the download and hear what's going on at really one of the biggest breweries in the state now at this point, right? Do you know where you stack up?
We're the third, so it's of course Molson in Milwaukee, City Brewing in La Crosse, and then it's us.
All right, there you go. The number 3 beer baron in Wisconsin, right here on Badger Beer Hour. Isaac, thanks so much, and best of luck with Asahi, and congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right.